There's a passage that I've heard being manipulated, for people to give their last. I've heard ministers try to tell people to give what, the last that's in their bank, and or the last that they had in their pocket, because the Lord's going to bless that. The Lord's going to bless that sacrifice. And here's a passage, or here's the passage that I heard manipulated several times. It's coming from second or First Kings 17:7 through 16. It says, some time later the brook dried up because there had been no rain in the land. Then the word of the Lord came to him, go at once to Zapharvath, or Zarphath, my bad, in the region of Sidon, and stay there. I have directed a widow there to supply you with food. So he went to Zarphath. When he came out to the town gate, a widow was there gathering sticks. He called to her and asked, would you bring me a little water in a jar so that I may have to drink? As she was going to get it, he called, and bring me please a piece of bread. He was hungry. As surely as the Lord your God lives, she replied, I don't have any bread, only a handful of flour in a jar and a little olive oil in a jug. I am gathering a few sticks to take home to make a meal for myself and my son, that we may eat it and die. Right? Elijah said to her, don't be afraid. Go home and do as I said. Or go on, go home and do as you have said. Because, that was their last. So when she said that we may eat and die, like that's all they had. So after that, they're going to die. Right? Because there's nothing else to eat. But he said in verse 13, Elijah said to her, don't be afraid. Go home and do as you have said, but first make a small loaf of bread for me from what you have and bring it to me, and then make something for yourself and your son. For this is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says, the jar of flour will not be used up, and the jug of oil will not be run dry until the day the Lord sends rain on the land. She went away and did as Elijah had told her. So there was food every day. So there was food every day for Elijah and for the woman and her family. For the jar of flour was not used up, and the jug of oil did not run dry, in keeping with the word of the Lord spoken by Elijah. So we see here that the lady made her last for her and her son and Elijah, and she was like, "Hey, I really don't have much. This is all I have." But she went and made it anyway, because Elijah's a prophet, and the Lord sent him there for a purpose. And she blessed the man of God who was sojourning with nothing, because a lot of these prophets will go places with no like preparation, as you would think, like this is long journeys, like they relied on hospitality, a lot of these prophets. So God sent him there because God knew that she was there, and God sent him to a place where he can get something to eat and drink. But lady didn't have much. She only had a little bit. She had her last, but she gave her last to help the man of God, because that was God ordained. You know what I'm saying? And it was blessed because she ultimately gave to the Lord, right? For helping the man of God is going to get the word forth and perceive what the Lord told him to do. So by that means, the Lord said, "Hey, it's not going to run dry. You know, you're not going to run out. It's going to keep flowing." And she did what she did, and she was blessed. But they were used. The lady gave her last to mean that, oh, give your last money, give what's in your pocket, and the Lord will bless it. When we look at the story, who are we even giving to? You know what I'm saying? And is what was that God ordained for you to give your last in that moment? Did God tell you to give your last, or is somebody telling you that to manipulate you, because of a clear story we have here used and being twisted so that people who are actually struggling and think because they will give their last that this is going to happen when God didn't tell you to do that. This is the difference between God telling you to give your last than somebody just using what God told somebody else to tell you to do that and thinking that is going to work out for you when God didn't, instruct that person, to do that himself. So they use this story to get people to give their last or to motivate people. If you sacrifice, God's going to bless it. When this was particular and specific to this person that God was using for the purposes that he had them to go out and do,
Yeah.
So it was taken out
Now,
of context,
yeah.
basically.
Yes. And this just reminded me of the other verse. And this is the New Testament verse that they also go off of, which is Mark 12, verse 41 and 43. Let's say 37 all the way to 44. I'm not going to read all of it, but you guys will get the gist of it. So it goes, David therefore himself calleth him Lord, and whence is he then his son? And the common people heard him gladly. All right, let's start at 38. And he said unto them in his doctrine, beware of the scribes, which love to go in long clothing and love salutations in the marketplaces, and the
Mm.
chief seats in the synagogues and the uppermost rooms at feasts. So he's talking about the people high up in the church, the people who have status in the church, the people who
Mm-hmm.
kind of call the shots in the religious context. And he says, these chiefs that Christ is talking about, he said, which devour widows' houses and for a pretense make long prayers, these shall receive greater damnation.
Dang.
And Jesus sat over against the treasury and beheld
Mm.
how the people cast money into the treasury, and many that were rich cast in much. So rich people put in a lot of money,
Mm-hmm.
and normal people put in normal money. And he said, and
Yeah.
there came a certain poor widow, and she threw in 2 mites, which make a farthing.
I
So
have
2
no idea.
mites, yeah, 2 mites, which make a farthing, is basically like, as we read in the other version, it's like 2 cents. It's
Mm-hmm.
nothing. She's poor and she's a widow, right?
Yeah,
Widows
she's
already have
struggling.
a heart. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, she's struggling. So.
I mean, like you might as well call her a homeless person at this point with how
Mm-hmm.
bad she's struggling.
How'd she get those 2
And
mics?
her last, that was her last,
Mm-hmm.
right? And Christ said, and he called unto him 43, and he called unto him his disciples and said to them, verily I say unto you that this poor widow hath cast more in than all they which have cast into the treasury. For all they did cast in their abundance, but she of her want did cast in all that she had, even all her living. Oh my goodness. So he said what this lady put in, these 2 cents, are more than these rich people put in there, right? Mind you, he already said that these rich people, they basically go in and plunder the house of widows. They trick widows into giving to the church. And this verse that we're gonna reveal to you in the truth will tell you the direct opposite of what these high-seated men, what they did to houses, right? So I mean, we're talking about the widow, and we just heard the story that Eddie showed us in the Old Testament about the widow who had her last bits. And God
Mm-hmm.
specifically sent this prophet to this widow so that she would be blessed and her house would be able to have something to eat, because God specifically takes care of the widows. The widows are one of the people that God specifically puts his eye on to
Mm-hmm.
protect and to provide for.
Yep.
And this is the very and this is the very person that these high-seated men are targeting not caring, right? They could have been like, hey, don't put your money in there. Don't worry about it. We got you. We see that you're struggling. We see that you're struggling. The fact that there's a poor widow struggling in your church, for one, is a problem, dude. Why? She's poor and she's a widow. Take care of her. But instead, you guys putting in all your money, see this widow come and put her last 2 bits in, the bits that she has to live on. She's basically going to go home and die, right? And these men are, as Christ's word, they're devouring these houses filled with these kind of people. So it's a big deal to have people give to you that should not really be giving, because if they give, what money are they going to have to live on? And we come to a crossroads with certain Christians that say Christianity is not about money. Well, it is in this scenario, meaning that money is something that we're supposed to be thinking about as Christians. You don't just throw your money away and then God says, you know what? I see your heart. I'll provide for you, even though you have a responsibility as adult to provide for your household and make sure your family's fine. You're going to give it to the church. It's not going to God. It's not going to God. So
I got a nice verse. You ready to go to the truths, or
let's do it? It's been long enough.
All right. So here's a verse. This verse right here is going to specifically give us insight on why giving to the rich or just giving to a rich man doesn't make you, the person that's giving, any richer.